morning, Byron. This is Jaylarock show. How many of y'all got fly girls? Because beauty is in the eye of the beholder, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And you're here with Jaylarock. That's right. And before we start this morning off, we're going to hit you off with the intro of the show. You macaroni mouth motherfuckers.
If you think you heard the best rap, you heard the best word. Well, yes, it's true that we got the bus because it can't be the best unless it came from us. There's 5 of us and we take no stuff. We gonna do the city, we gonna do stuff. We number one, ain't something you can do it. If you wanna get down, we'll rock it too. So get down, get down, get down, get down. Come on, cowboy, and get down. Yes, yes, y'all, you don't stop. Come on, my girls, it's time to get shot. Cause I'm the C-O-W-B-O-Y. The man so bad that you can't deny. You better watch it because I tell you why. Cowboy, I might give a drop. They call me Kiki, the young nation lead. There's a man of romance that make you dance. Get in it, have your lead, stand a chance. I'm cowboy, every time in the house you see. You say 1, 2, 1 more is 3. And Melly Mel rock the mic so viciously. Up to the hip-hop, that don't stop. I don't stop that body rock. And just get a box seat, get ready to clap. Because Melly Mel just about ready to rap. Never since the top at the very first party, I felt I could make myself somebody. It was something in my heart from the very start. Myself and top of the chop, rapping on the mic to make it go dance with the top, spinning what they call DJ Flat, signing autograph for the young and old, wearing big time silver and solid gold. My name on the radio and in the magazine, my picture on a TV screen. It ain't like that yet, but you'll see. I got the whole attention and you will agree. Coming up, then I gotta step above the rest. Cause I do that ladder thing called success. It say 1, 23, 45, 67. Rapping like hell, make it sound like heaven. 765, 43, 21. Come on, Raheem, come and get some. I said my name is Raheem, I'm the son of a queen. I'm the king of my castle, don't give me no hassle. I'm a one of a kind, the man supreme. I know him at all the lady's dreams. I'm the R-A-A to the I-E-M.
That's right. Crack is whack, nigga. Crack is very whack. Got some fucked up news to bring you guys. And with this news I'm bringing you guys, a lot might come behind it. Reporting out of Orange County, Florida. Young child has died after gunfires erupt in a Florida neighborhood. Authorities saying. This is fucked. Ooh, this is some bad news there. Very. Let me turn my mic. This is brought. Oh shit! This is brought to you by Power Bags. Get you that high bread. Smoke the high bread only. Now back to what I was saying again. A young child has died after gunfire erupted in Florida neighborhood. Authorities saying, according to reporters, the deadly shooting occurred shortly before 9:30 p.m. Tuesday in Pine Hills. The Orange County Sheriff's Office said that deputies responded to a report of gunfires along Drexel Ave and found a young man who was shot dead, authorities said. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene, reporters are saying. Authorities had not released the name or the age of the child, according to the news outlet. Okay, so now the sheriff's county right now investigating this murder. I don't know how many people had tuned into my Anchor show. We have 2 shows. We got one on Speaker, we got one on Anchor. And they're both Jaylarock shows. But we had Christian White. He's an activist from Boston, Roxbury, same place as Malcolm X. And we hit a lot of subjects. So this is my question for the listeners today. So when a black kid is killed by a white officer, right? Everybody erupts. And they riot. And they burn down their own fucking community. Right? You catching my drift? Now a young black kid is killed in the midst of gunfire amongst other black people. What do you do then? Do you riot the same way as a cop killing a black kid in Orange County, Florida? You know, people say Black Lives Matter and want to get merch and market off of this shit. Let me tell you one thing. If it matters, you will stop fucking killing each other. That's simple shit now. I ain't trying to lose no listeners or no sponsors in what is being said, but it comes to a point where, you know, you gotta stop being accountable for what you do. And that's just real, okay? It's real. You know what I'm saying? Not trying to be a dickhead early this morning, but I'm just pointing out the obvious, okay? The obvious. You know? Just being real. Sometimes you gotta be real, you know? But furthermore, shit going on in our local news with Maverick College. They shut its dorm after 17 positive cases of COVID-19. Now, all 266 students who live in Monacan Hall were told that they need to leave the dorms and go into quarantine or isolation. Okay, now a resident at Maverick College was, all the residents from the hall was evacuated on Tuesday after 16 students living in the same dorm all tested positive for COVID-19. The college said the single cases of COVID-19 last week had no growth for 17 positive cases. Now, all 17 students who tested positive live in this one hall. Now, they talked to certain students. One student, Lindsay Tavano, speaks out and say, I feel like it was bound to happen easily to freshman dorms, saying Leslie Tavo, sophomore at Merrimack College. There's a lot of people living together. Merrimack College officials sent an email to students yesterday morning ordering all 266 students who lived in Monacan Hall to return to their dorm rooms and prepare to leave, okay? I'm not really surprised because if one of the persons had it, it does kind of spread, you know. That's just one sophomore was saying. So the college sends more than 250 students will be isolated off of campus per their college COVID-19 policy, which remains students isolating on while remaining students isolating on campus will do so on campus, designated quarantine spaces. When in all reality, you should have fucking just did the same thing you fuckers was doing for Boston public schools and other fucking town surrounding schools in Massachusetts. Remote. And I don't understand what the fuck is wrong with even colleges nowadays. Already teachers is coming out and saying Charlie Baker bullied them into opening these schools back. The weather's getting colder, it's getting airy. Let's speak on the obvious of certain situations and shit, you know. Gets to a point, we got to start holding these people accountable for what they do. Because these are your kids. You go to visit them. You come back home. And stuff like that. They might bring this shit back and kill your ass. You might end up dead. You don't know. But we don't wish that on nobody. But let's take this a little serious. Because a lot of people ain't taking it serious. We don't need you to be a mask hole. Put your mask on, your asshole. Because you even see Patriots coach Belichick even get fined $100,000 for not correctly wearing his mask. Like, what makes him fucking exempt from any and everybody else? Honestly. Because you're in a competitive mode to win, that you would jeopardize your fucking safety, you idiot. And then behind him not wearing that mask, the team also gets fined $250,000. So just wear your mask. It's just simple. You know what I'm saying? But think about it. Who am I to talk, you know? They couldn't get people to wear condoms. I'm being serious. You know, but our mayor of Boston's been up to something, okay? Yeah, he's been up to something. Now, a task force charged with reviewing in the Boston's department is preparing a final draft on recommendations to send Mayor Marty Walsh, the 11th person of the Boston Police Reform Task Force, held its final meeting for public input on Tuesday night. The group is still expected written public input online at this site. You guys can reach us on is the .org. It's for the city. Now, a spokesperson for Marty Walsh offices told reporters that the city is expecting to receive the final recommendations from task force in the next few weeks. Now, those final recommendations are expected to be available in the public sometimes in early October. Never before, he says, in his lifetime, at least as mayor, publicly committed, repeated and, emphasized saying that he intends to take the recommendations of the task force, implement them, and, and bring it to their boss, Mr. Crawford from the task force. But task force members told news reporters that that they believe the changes are, long overdue. So, fucking task force needs some motherfucking money for it. He's saying it's critical that the recommendations is not only being implicated but also expected to hold those in power accountable. Oftentimes there in Boston, the better story is how wonderful and magnificent we are, says Crawford of the task force. If there is racism, this is the the epicenter of racism. So Crawford saying a long-time community activist and police reform advocate was selected to be part of the task force earlier this summer after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis. So these Boston police are stepping up to someone what's going on and addressing it. The task force also has a few months to comply with recommendations. So early this month, the group released its initial draft, included the recommendations that the city creates an independent office with broad investigations and subpoena powers to review and resolve civil or civilian complaints, and asks Boston police policy. So the initial draft also details recommendations for formalizing and expanding Boston police commitments to diversity and conclusion. So it's entailed a proposal to expand the department's body-worn camera program as well. The fight continues. This is not the end of it all. This is just the first step, as he's mentioned. But he's glad that, the movement's here so they can do what they can do. Mayor's Walsh office said that most recommendations can be likely put in place by the city, but the same changes will require legislation's approval and changes. So let's see where that all go, man. Let's see where that all go. Now, out in the Hollywood things, okay? I don't know how many young people nowadays are really too familiar with Magic Johnson. He was one of the biggest celebrities with an AIDS story that hit the world. But our next story is Hollywood, the cutest LGBT couple that provide loves and have no boundaries, okay? Because let me tell you, here on the Jaylarock show, we love the LGBT community, and we got love for the LGBT community. So anybody from this community is always welcome on our show. And if anybody sends a comment disrespecting the LGBT community, we might be able to hire somebody to go